Go.
Hey, good morning everybody. I'm going to show you how to take apart the instrument panel. If your speedometer, tach, or one of your other gauges aren't working, there's a stepper motor that needs to replace. And since we're going to have to take it out of park, you're going to have to do a couple things. Make sure your tires are blocked, set your emergency brake, and then it just takes a couple little screwdrivers. Just get your hands back here, this little plastic shroud, you just pull it off. In a couple places, be careful. But you're going to have to put your ignition key in, turn it to on, pull your steering wheel all the way down, and take it and put it in low, because you're going to need to pull this out over top your steering wheel. This easily pulls out. Just kind of work it, be gentle with it, and this pulls right out, and it's done. Now you're down the instrument panel. Okay, now you can go ahead and put it back in park, turn your key off. Now, I've already taken this apart as a dry run to make sure I knew how to do this. So I've already taken the dowels off, but I'll quickly show you when we get to that part. That'll be a second video. But this, you'll need a very small ratchet, and the socket size is a 7mm. There's four bolts. Okay, let me show the bolts here. Where they were over there. And there's two on this other side. They're very obvious. Just quickly take them out. And once you get these screws out, I keep them in a nice little baggie so I can control them where they're at. I have one over here. I only put two back in so that I can make this relatively easy to get out. Now this is pretty simple. One thing I'm going to show you in the second video is how to desolder. Everybody seems to have a problem with that one. It's actually quite easy if you learn. You add a little solder before you try to suck it out, either with a wick, solder wick, or with a desoldering tool. Okay, now you're going to actually have to key back in and turn in the on position, put it back in low. And the only reason why is you got to take this instrument panel out, and it comes out very easily. You just pull this out like so, kind of work it around. Oh, it came out early. Hang on a second. Comes out very easily if you know what you're doing. There you go. Just gotta do it right. And there's a connector on the back. Just squeeze the two together. Can you get that? Squeeze the two together and kind of wiggle it back and forth and pull. That's how simple it is. There you go. You have your instrument panel. Now, as you notice, I've already taken the dowels off, but I'll show you how to do that. And I've already marked it just to get it all prepared. But anyhow, this is it. We will be taking the back side off. It's quite simple. Put it back in park, turn your key off. Just get a regular old screwdriver. Actually, two of them. And you put one underneath the little bit. Don't break them. Don't force it. And you just pop the rest of it. Just put it in here. And just kind of work your way around. And that's the top side. There's three of them there. And on the bottom, it actually, there's three more down here, sorry. And they just pop right up since you already have the other. And it just comes apart. And here are your stepper motors that we're going to be replacing. Oh, that one does. I don't have the seventh one. So it's 6 at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now the back side, so we have this off. The back side just comes right off. So now you're down to the actual desoldering, which is in another video. And to get a hold of, now when this is together and the dials are on, you're going to have to take this side off. And it is quite simple. The difference between this one and the other side, these have the tabs just like the top, but the bottom ones are internal, and so They're right here and right here. So you got to kind of push down. Well, hang on, let me make sure I get these out. Okay, this is done. And there you go. Bingo. You're done. Okay, that's it. And we're down to the part where it has the dials will be in here, and I'll show you how to, they send you a nice little tool. That's it. We're going to take these apart inside. Okay, in the last video we showed you how to remove the instrument panel from the Suburban 2004. This is now going to show you how to replace each one of the stepper motors. So first off, you need a couple tools. You'll need soldering iron, a sponge, a damp sponge, a nice little solder sipper. Just push the button down. Okay, I have a screwdriver, small one, because I've never taken one of these off. Solder, 6040 solder. They sent me this nice little handy tool. I'll demonstrate how to take the thing off. I mark, and I'll show you what I did. I mark each one of these pieces. You're going to need blue tape or masking tape. Here's the parts they give you. The instrument panel, I've already separated, but I'll show you how to do that. And then the actual stepper motors. Each one of these are the stepper motors, which is what we're going to replace. My bulbs are not out, so I'm not going to mess with those this time. I'll keep them. They send it, even though I didn't order it. It came with the kit, which I'm happy. So the first thing we do is move this to the side. Soldering iron is getting warm, so we got to be safe about it. But the first thing we do is we put masking tape. I use blue painter's tape because it comes off and it doesn't stick to the panel and rip things off. And so when this is attached on the back side, each one of these are in each one of these posts. Okay, and they're a little tough to get out at first. Some people just grab it and pull it. You don't want to break the thing off. I, at the time, hadn't received this fancy little tool, but it's very simple. You just put the tool underneath and you'll just wiggle it, and there's a little space, and you'll wiggle, 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 and you just kind of keep working. Then you turn it to the big side and it pulls it up. You want to pull it up as straight as you can. And there's two sizes. Big, at least on mine, on the 2004. You got these two are the same and these four are the same. I actually marked on the back side which one those ones. This is the speedometer, it's an S. Okay, and I have a little baggie that I keep everything in. So I have the bolts in there and I keep it nice and safe. Now, when I didn't have this fancy tool, you can do the same thing with forks. You notice it has the same curve as these two. And you'll take one fork and you'll work it into the middle prong, and you'll work it, work it, work it, and you'll get it underneath there. And you try to pry and it won't go. So then you take the second fork and you put it underneath, and you lift, and you keep putting the fork under further and further and further so it lifts it straight. And you just keep working it, and then pops right off. But you want to make sure, these are pretty long. If you notice, these are pretty long. So you don't want to break one of those off. So you try to keep the fork, whether you're using this tool or the sets of fork, to keep trying to wiggle, 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 and pull it as straight as possible. Okay? Now, one thing I forgot to do. Sorry about this. Sorry. The masking tape, you need to mark, make sure the gauge is as far to the left, counterclockwise as possible. And then just take your black magic marker and you mark right on top of it. Now when I do it, you'll see a little X on each side. If I happen to be, once I got done, I was a little favoring one side or the other, I'll put a little dot or X on that side that says I need to make sure that I'm a little bit on the heavier side that way, because it's already calibrated. Same thing with each one of these. It's no different, they're just smaller. Okay, so now I have all of these off. And this is done. Then this back side comes off. Okay, so this is what we're replacing each one of these. Okay, there's 6 of them on the 2004 Suburban. Okay, you flip it over and you have to find the posts, the soldering pins that you got to desolder. There's a couple ways to do this. If you turn the the board, the PC board, a little bit angled, the light hits it. Sorry. the light hits it a certain way, and of course they're bigger posts. You can see them pretty readily. I don't know on the camera if you can. Christy, can you see? We're looking at this area right here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because this is this one, and I like to mark them that way when I don't have to keep flipping back and forth. So it's that one, this one, and this one. And the next one is this one here. Okay, I look back and I look for the big post, and I've marked them. Same thing with this one, this one, this one, this one. I look, I touch it, I come back over it, and I got my 4. Same thing with this one, I got my 4, and I got my 4, and I got my 4. And I have put little dots next to it, so I know what to desolder. Okay? Now, the problem with this, in 2004, it's 2014 right now, PC's been in there for at least 10 years, and there's probably a date code on here somewhere that tells me how long, when it was actually built. Now, it might have been back in 03 as far as this goes. But anyhow, in fact, it was 03 because we bought the car in 03. So, there's a little oxidation on these. So the first thing somebody wants to do is you got to have a very, very clean soldering tip. Okay? You file it off, make sure it's nice and clean. You get it a little bit wet. And you take some solder and you just dab it on it. If it beads up like that, gets nice, oh, that's beautiful right there. Okay? Take off the excess solder. Now the first thing somebody wants to do is they want to immediately take their soldering tip and they want to start trying to desolder this. Well, you notice I got to keep that on pretty long before it actually starts to melt. Okay? You melt it and you suck it out. But it doesn't flow real well. So what I like to do is I actually solder it. I actually take a little bit of solder, new solder, and I put a little on there because what you're doing is getting this to flow really well, and it'll suck it out nice and clean. Okay? And I actually have a better solder tip now that I'm using this big thing here. I probably ought to be using. It's a lot skinnier. I got to use this on the side. Okay, so I'm going to put a little bit of solder on each one of these. Okay. Probably get my big hand or head in the way, aren't I?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So, yeah, I have a different soldering tip which is much smaller. It's the one I probably should be using here, but this one's fine. Okay. So you just take it, get it nice and hot, suck it up. Okay, there, perfect. That's what it's supposed to look like. Okay? Sometimes you got to do it twice. Okay? See, nice and clean. In fact, I'll show you. Each one of these need to be bent up. So you kind of bend these nice and straight so it'll pull out. And you just pull it out. It used to go there. And I'm going to mark, making sure that I know I got one in there. Okay? This is the only one that doesn't get one. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close this off. I'm going to desolder all these.